Welcome to Ecotopia, the only show that tells you to buy less stuff. In this week's episode, Adam goes to his first ever music festival. Rati helps build a structure that could last for 2,000 years. Our DIY man Brent helps build us a compost heap. But right now, Georgina gets some advice on some organic food.
What if I was to show you 2 apples, 2 broccolis, and 2 leeks? Would you be able to spot the difference? What if I told you one of each of the pairs was organic? What is so special about organic food? Global organic food production and consumption is growing at 15% a year. It's the fastest growing food sector on the planet. Here in Australia, organic food production has increased 70% in the last 5 years. Organic food is everywhere, from your local greengrocer to the biggest of supermarket chains. Today I'm at an organic farm in Coburg, just north of Melbourne's CBD. I'm here to learn a little bit more about organic food, whether it's good for you, whether it's good for the environment, and also, if I'm lucky, get to eat some too. The basic principle of organic farming is producing high yields of nutritious foods without the use of artificial fertilizers or synthetic chemicals. So for fruits and vegetables, this means a total lack of chemical insecticides or genetically modified strains. For livestock, like cows and chickens, it means diets without growth stimulants. All organic products have no artificial additives or preservatives. But bearing all this in mind, is organic farming really sustainable? Products in Australia need to follow principles set down by Australian law for 1 year before they can be accredited as organic. In Australia, there's 7 organisations that can give out this organic certificate. If you buy organic, you might be familiar with some of the logos that represent an organic product. But what is it about an organic product that makes it organic? I'm here with Chris Ennis, who manages this inner city organic farm, to find out the challenges, the rewards, and the costs of sticking organic. Why would you recommend eating organic vegetables?
Or because I sell them, I guess. I would buy organic vegetables because you know that the farmer, in most cases, trying to farm as sustainably as possible, and that's the reason I would.
Can anyone grow organically at home?
Sure, yeah. Probably most people do by default and don't know it. Your grandparents farmed or gardened, you know, they would call that gardening. And probably today you'd call that organic gardening. It's traditional. It's a traditional way of doing things.
So Chris, what is the process that farmers go through to become organically certified?
So it's quite simple. You really have to account for your inputs. Your inputs have to be organic, and that means no ammonium nitrates and no pesticides, no herbicides, all that sort of thing, unless they're certified and natural. You have to provide buffer zones around your land for nature, and just to make sure that no sprays are coming in from an outside property. You have to have quite good record keeping about your rotations, so you're not planting the same thing in the same ground again. It's a farm that you hope is going to be left in better condition with better soils and more diversity when the farmer finishes farming and hands over to the next person than when he started.
Why is organic food traditionally more expensive?
Main reasons are the organic food takes more labour. If you look around our farm, you see lots of people weeding, and a person using sprays, to knock out, a herbicide. It's a bit cheaper than it is to pay someone to go up and down a row with a hoe.
Can you see a future where more Australians demand and have access to affordable organic vegetables?
I hope so. Farmers are shifting towards, more sustainable production, which could be, termed organic, or could be called, ecological farming.
What's in season right now, and have you got something for me to try?
What's in season? So it's autumn. We have lots of greens, lots of lettuce, bok choy, spring onions, some early leeks. You might even get a late tomato, and perhaps even a tamarillo.
These are tamarillos, and they're beautiful. They look like brightly coloured Easter eggs.
And you scoop it out, but really you could just squeeze the guts out of it.
I'll share it with you. It's really delicious.
Some people put a little bit of brown sugar.
Oh, yum.
They're delicious.
They are delicious. So what have I all learned about organic farming? Well, it's complicated and high maintenance, but sometimes the results may be healthier and in some instances more sustainable. Organic farming is a balancing act. Sometimes the search for all natural can lead to unsustainable practices and trade. So be aware, eating organic is not always eating more sustainably, but it sure does use a lot less chemicals. So do your research and enjoy eating organic food.
People of Ecotopia, your attention for the next few seconds. Citizens, friends, bed partners. The multinational conglomerates have descended upon the southern villages of Ecotopia. We must assemble the love defense, the chanting squads. Meditate upon victory. We shall fashion weapons of the mind. Om. May peace be with you, Ecotopia.
Day 1. We're here with Nicholas and Minna and a bunch of Earthbaggers. They'll be teaching us how to build our own Earthbag Dome. Let's get our hands dirty.
Originally it was designed for emergency shelters. So the idea was anyone with a coffee can, anyone who can lift a coffee can of soil can build the dome.
We need to do the drainage too. We put the Aggie pipe, which is a polyethylene black tubing with holes all over, and we lay it on the ground so that the water runs into it and doesn't erode underneath. A lancet dome is always as high as its width, so the diameter. So it should be about 1, 2.
While Nick measures the compass chain, the others start laying the scoria foundation over the drainage pipe. The foundations are just about complete and are tucked neatly into their scoria bed.
Today we're gonna do the next side of the door, put the door form in and start away with the actual dome wall. Now we're gonna lay the barbed wire on top of it so that we get friction, and also this will tie in, the barbed wire will tie into this side. I'll just show you how I'm doing it. You see? Getting
This is the 10 to 1 soil cement mix, and we try to get it a texture which is not leaving much dampness on the hands, but will stick the soil together. And once that's tamped into the bag, that will hold its shape and will set solid.
When we're done putting the bags around, we can remove the wood underneath and drop the form and put it out. There you go. When you finish a bag, you need to make sure you stump the end so that it's well compacted, so you can do a beautiful wrapping. And then you tuck it underneath so that it can get caught by the barbed wire underneath. And this is the secret of locking a bag. There you go. And the last step, of course, give it a bit of a whack.
To make sure that the ring is at the same distance all the way around, so it's a perfect circle. And as you go up, you actually just make this smaller, so the rings get slowly smaller and smaller until it forms a perfect dome.
Good job, guys.
For many of the Earthbaggers, these structures represent a whole lifestyle, synonymous with growing their own veggies and harvesting all the energy and water they need.
The standard house, you have a house and you have a drive and a carport and your car. Whereas the whole point of the Earthbag house is you have your Earthbag house, and maybe you have your herbs and your vegetables and your chooks and whatever. So the design of the house, I guess, is built into the landscape rather than just being put down side by side with other houses.
As we see, anyone can get involved and build with it, and it's a very community-orientated building process.
In an era where we live, where value is created from scarcity and complexity, this sort of construction is so inspiring because it's made by people with very little skills. But, we were able to co-create something together that's much more ecological than other styles of building.
It's the end of day 4. The Earthbaggers have laid 14 layers of earth bags and 1 underground to create a sturdy structure pretty high up. The dome is beginning to curve inwards. Each smooth layer is held together by barbed wire.
As we go up, it's what we call cobbling. That means it steps in a little bit by little bit. So it's like those kids' little donuts games that you put on top of each other. It reduces and it's gonna shut itself at the end, and just put 1 bag in the end and it's finished.
It's day 6 and the workshop has officially finished. Now the workers are eager to finish the dome. The dome stands much higher than the door now, standing just over 2 meters. It still stands strong as the weight is distributed equally around the domes through the walls down to the foundation.
Okay, so yesterday we finally put on the capstone up there, the pyramid-shaped pillow bag right on top. So it was a grand moment of closing the dome.
We just built the house.
We did.
So awesome.
Bins are one of the world's greatest recycling units. They turn scraps into valuable compost. Now, you probably take compost's cousin, soil, for granted, but you shouldn't, because soil, worms and compost, they all rock. I'm going to meet a few composting gurus and find out a little bit more about compost and how you can make it a part of your lifestyle. Hi Glenn.
Hi Brad, how are you?
Welcome back. Why should we compost at home?
Well, the benefits are that, what are you going to do with your food scraps? You could throw it in the bin, but if you do that, it's going to go to landfill and generate methane, which is contributing to global warming. It's kind of gets you to think about the food that you're generating. A lot of us waste food that's good food. You might start to turn on that light bulb and think, hey, maybe I should be a little bit more conscious about what I can do to avoid wasting food around the home.
So Glenn, what are the different types of compost heaps?
Well, they're all essentially doing the same thing, like turning food scraps back into soil to put in your garden. So this is a really good example of a very large open compost system. We're starting at the front. We're putting the organic matter in here, like the food scraps, like veggie clippings and vegetables, grass clippings, and then we keep on turning it. And the reason we want to turn it is to draw oxygen into the heap, because the bacteria in there that are breaking down the food scraps and the plant materials, they're using that oxygen. There are different types of bins that you can put your compost in. You can have your bokashi bin. So that's a smaller sort of system. It's not dealing with large amounts of waste. It's inside your house, so you're not at the mercy of the weather outside. Bokashi is probably ideal for maybe in a flat or something like that. Then you've got like around the corner here, you've got some of the black ones. They're good for maybe a family of 4. Like the thing with that though, you need to be careful. It's very hard to turn your compost with those.
So what are some things that you definitely wouldn't put in your compost heap?
Definitely no meat, minimise your dairy, obviously no plastics or anything like that. You can put cardboard in there, you can put paper in there, all organic materials can go in there.
Yeah.
It's essentially soil, and fertiliser, natural fertiliser you're putting back into your gardens.
Dirt and worms, worms and dirt. If you like getting down and dirty like I do, or if you just simply like doing the worm dance or eating garden produce, well then you need to know about these little suckers because they're the key to a healthy compost. I've taken myself to the local worm guru, Richard Thomas, to meet his slippery little suckers and find out if I should take some home. So what do worms like to eat?
For domestic worm farms, the worms will be eating mostly food scraps out of the kitchen.
How do worms help break down the compost?
Well, it's quite interesting actually. Most people think that the worms eat the organic matter, but what they're actually doing is feeding on the bacteria and microbes that are breaking down in the organic matter. Inside their gut, they're like a little bacteria factory, and all the bacteria breeding inside the worm. and breeding on the organic material, and then the worms secreting more of these little creatures back into the worm farm, and gradually it breaks down, and they're actually creating an environment that's ideal for themselves to survive in. Worms seem to be the key to healthy gardens to me, so they sort of go hand in hand. Without worms we probably wouldn't have civilization, because all of the main civilizations that emerged out of the Fertile Crescent in the Middle East and other parts of the world had incredibly rich soil chock-a-block full of earthworms. And that enabled them to have a surplus of food crops, and the ability to store food allowed for other activities apart from food production to happen in society, like development of writing. We really are reliant on worms, the way I look at it. Without worms we wouldn't be here.
How do worms help turn dirt into soil, and how does that help your garden grow better?
Interesting question. Composting, your regular compost heap compared to your worm farm, fundamentally it's the same thing going on. You've got microorganisms breaking down the organic matter and releasing nutrients and creating humus or soil in the process. The difference is that because worms are secreting billions and billions of microbes as they work their way through the soil, they're actually accelerating the process, and studies have shown that compost produced by worms is up to 5 times more nutritious, stronger in terms of its mineral and nutrient contents than regular compost. So a worm farm is going to get you a much better result and a much quicker result than just a regular compost heap.
Who would have thought without worms we wouldn't be here? That's Ecotopia for you. Having healthy compost means having healthy veggies. My personal favourite, tomatoes. I love them.
Well, I imagine the future with these concepts prevailing, hopefully, and when everybody has all of the comfort and all of the food they need, and all of the electricity they need, and all of the water they need, and a sanitary sewage system, when everybody has that, I imagine that that's going to provide a peace of mind in all people, where just the energy, they're going to be floating around like heaven. Could be heaven.
All right, now I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I have never been to a music festival. What? I hear you say, but I have drunk a whole lot of beer. So that qualifies me to talk about this story. We're at Fest La Frog 2012, the Sustainable Music and Arts Festival. It's the brainchild of Eco Supremo Dino O'Callaghan. We're going to catch up with him and his sustainable ale right now. There he goes, right there. Okay, so Dino, I get to stand here in the rain talking to a man dressed like a frog who sells beer. What more could I ask for? It's fantastic. Tell me a little bit about Festival La Frog.
I was talking about how, look, I've got this passion for a festival. I think it's really important that good beer gets served to the masses, not just by one guy on a bicycle who rides around and tries to stay away from liquor licensing. It's all about, beautiful people getting together, and we're all about supporting small enterprises. There's traditional healthcare who make amazing food. There's the beautiful Veggielicious serving fantastic vegetarian treats, supporting small bands, and we all sort of grow together.
So you were a corporate IT high flyer in a former life.
Yeah.
You're now selling beer. Tell me a little bit about how that process came about.
Well, I actually worked legitimately for one day. And then I started travelling and teaching English as a foreign language to people overseas, and I loved it. I loved the contact with different human beings from different cultures, and I realised that we were all one. That was working out really well, and then my dad bought a brewery, which sounds like it would be the most amazing thing that could ever happen to you. I come home and I started what I didn't realise at the time, was a social enterprise. It's basically a business that's based on building good things for good people. And I was talking about my business to someone, and she said, well, what's your business about? You know, and I said, well, it's all about good things, you know. And she goes, why don't you call yourself the Good Brew Company? So I did.
So what makes a good sustainable brew? Well, it considers the environment in all phases of its production. It has the smallest possible carbon footprint, uses only natural ingredients, no GMOs, no preservatives, and tastes fantastic. Now, it's true, I have to admit it, I have woken up with quite a few hangovers in my time from drinking beer. Does drinking your beer better for you? Does it lessen the hangover the next day or what?
I would like to say that you get no hangover from my beer. I think if you brew a beer properly, so you spend at least 6 weeks maturing that delicious nectar, you're not filling it up with preservatives and bottling it and then selling it 6 months later. You don't need to put preservatives in beer, but if you're making 50,000 litres a day and you're shipping it all around the world, you do. We make 50,000 litres a year. We brew beer with traditional methods, so it's very slow, and also we don't filter our beer. So all of the vitamins that are left over from the activity of the yeast is left behind, and most of those vitamins are vitamin B. And vitamin B is what you need to not get a hangover. So you've got all the vitamin B that doesn't give you a hangover, you've got the no preservatives which doesn't give you a hangover, and it's just happy beer.
Listen, we're going to go and try a bit of your amazing brew.
I would love to pour you one of my amazing beers.
Now we have it all here at Fest La Frog. We have rain, we have mud, we have music, and we have beer. Now the Australian beer industry is worth about $8 billion a year. That's a lot of beer. The bad news for mega brewers is that sales have been on the decline, but that's good news for micro-sustainable brewers because now it's all about quality rather than quantity. And this lemongrass pale ale really hits the spot. That is awesome. Now, Fest La Frog is not just about music and beer, it's also about eco-friendly businesses getting together to share ideas and create an ecotopia.
Hi, I'm Sean from Thin Green Line and I'm dying for a beer. So the Thin Green Line primarily looks after the families of park rangers killed around the world and goes a step before that and tries to actually resource park rangers to do their frontline conservation work. So it's very simple, it's protecting the protectors. Without those people doing the work, there is no conservation in a lot of these reserves and a lot of these places around the world.
Well, that is my very first music festival and a sustainable one at that, and it has been sensational. Good music, good food, good beer, good people, and that is my idea of Ecotopia.
That's all for tonight, Ecotopians. In next week's episode, James finds out about aquaponics, Adam presents Ecotopia's guide to sustainable travel, and Leith meets Ted Trainer in his garden wonderland. See you next week, and don't forget to jump online and have your say.